in now. Shalom. Shalom, brothers and sisters. Giving and praise unto the Creator and Maker of heaven and earth. My name is Yeshaya Yisrael of the tribe of Dan of the nation of Israel. This particular presentation, brothers and sisters, we do not intend for it to be long. However, what we do intend, brothers and sisters, is to get into the language from a biblical matter. We call it mistranslations in the English Old Testament. Now, this is not to disrespect the pious work of those who translated the scriptures. This is not to disrespect the people who dug for information regarding the scriptures. This is not to disrespect, brothers and sisters, the matter of getting into it with our teachers in respect when I say get into it. Nonetheless, as knowledge increases, is what in part this is presented as. On a human level, giving due respect to my lady, Sarah Michaela of the House of Yisrael, Shalom. To the brothers and sisters online, currently, to the brothers and sisters who will listen to this later, we hope and pray that everybody is in good health. We hope and pray that everybody is well. I want to read something out of the Apocrypha, real quick, if we will. In the book, brothers and sisters, of Maccabees, namely to say, the book of Maccabees, 2nd Maccabees, chapter 1, verse 1. The brethren, the Jews that be at Jerusalem and in the land of Judea, wish unto the brethren, the Jews that are throughout Egypt, health and peace. God be gracious unto you, and remember his covenant that he made with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, his faithful servants. So, brothers and sisters, if I can be heard, and if you are in good spirits, please type the number 4. If I can be heard clearly, and if you are in good spirits, please type in the number 4. We are, brothers and sisters, going to into this matter and into this presentation. So without any further ado, let us get into this. I'm going to, sisters, take the camp as is my custom, because I don't want the people to look at me. I'd rather you look at the PowerPoint that will be presented. Thank you for that. The same token, we are going to, brothers and sisters, thank you for typing in the number 4. Ask you all to get your pens, your pads, and your paper and take notes. All right? So, thank you. Shalom. We're going to take down, brothers and sisters, the overlay, if we will. All right. And we are going to, brothers and sisters, pull up the PowerPoint. Thank you for insight. So if we go to the slideshow, if we will, from the beginning of such. And let us get into this particular matter. Thank you for that. Giving honor to the Most High. Shalom. This presentation is presented to you all to gain knowledge of Hebrew, in this case, biblical Hebrew, the oldest Hebrew we are familiar with. We ask you all to get your pens, pads, and take notes. Also, please subscribe to the channel. Have a good day/week. Thank you for that, brothers and sisters. Leviticus chapter 19, if we will. Leviticus 19, verse 1. And the Lord spoke unto Moses and to Aaron, saying unto them. Now, brothers and sisters, for those who are familiar with this, let us look at this with the laser pointer. And the Lord spoke unto Moses and to Aaron, saying to them, Wahidaber Yodhe Wahe, El Moshe, wa El Aharon, Lemor Alehem. Now, what do we want to point out, brothers and sisters, in this particular case? Is this word here, if we will. All right. As has been noted before and talked upon before and addressed before, brothers and sisters, the word Wayadaber means and he spoke. So how do we get that? Is because of the while consecutive. If you look, brothers and sisters, at this right here, what's being circled is the letter while. That serves as a prefix, brothers and sisters, in this particular case. All right. And next you have, brothers and sisters, which I'm going to show in this particular matter, right? With the highlighter. The word Yedaber itself means he will speak. It comes from, brothers and sisters, the root word daber. The word daber itself means speak or to speak. All right. Coming from the word essentially dabar, meaning to speak, the root form of it, also meaning the word. All right. So this is something we want to talk about. Daber means speak. The word dabar means word. All right. Now, in what is referred to as the while consecutive, right? You have it to where the normal present tense, the normal past tense word turns to future, and the normal future tense word turns into past. So that while there shows that for that particular matter. Then we have, brothers and sisters, the word yedaber, which is normally a future tense word. All right. Of the 7 stems, this falls into the category, brothers and sisters, of the stem, the third of the 7 stems. So, who is he that is speaking? Yod-He Wah-He, the Most High. El Moshe. El in this case means two. Moshe wa El Aharon, and to Aaron. Lemor. This word lemor that you're seeing being circled is, correct me if I'm wrong, the infinitive. It means saying, and it also means to say. All right. So this saying doesn't mean that it is per se present tense, because it's already speaking upon the Most High doing something in the past tense, saying this in which he spoke. Alehem, the last word that you see right here, is again, brothers and sisters, the word alehem, meaning unto them. If there are any questions, please feel free. If there are any questions, please feel free to comment. All right, let's go on. Speak unto the children of Israel, saying, these are the living things which ye may eat among all the beasts that are on the earth. So, brothers and sisters, looking upon it in this particular manner, and in this particular case, what we're dealing with and what we are talking about is the prophet Moses and his assistant Aaron being told to speak to the Israelite people. Why do we want to go over this in part? Is to get into, brothers and sisters, something regarding the matter of the language. So let's look at this for simplicity matters, if we will, right? And let's use the laser pointer. Dabru el bnei Yisrael lemor, zot hakaya, asher toklu mekol hapema asher al haaretz. All right, just want to make a slight change, if we may. Right, this is Leviticus, 11, not Leviticus 19. All right, that was about it. So if I can be heard and if people are in good spirits, please type in the number 4. All right, if I can be heard and if people are in good spirits, please type in the number 4. Thank you. Now, looking at this again, if we will, with the laser pointer. Speak unto the children of Israel. Dabru el bnei Yisrael lemor. Now, let's look, brothers and sisters, at the highlighter. And we want to look at, brothers and sisters, this word here, lemor. We see it there. And we see it here. And the translation of that is here, the word saying. Saying. Now, this saying, though it ends in IHG, does not, brothers and sisters, mean that it is a matter of it being in the present tense, because we're talking about something done in the past tense. In the past tense, this is what was happening. Happening is said with the IHG, but that doesn't make it current in that particular case. So that's how that works with linguistics in that particular manner. All right. These are the living things which ye may eat. Zot, hakaya, asher toklu. Now let's look and circle this with the pen, right? Because this is the intro part. We still didn't get to mistranslations yet. Right? In this particular case, akal means to eat, to consume, or to destroy. And when you eat something, it is destroyed. This serves as part of the qual stem. Much shout out to the brother whom I spent Shabbat with last Shabbat in North Carolina, the brother Maurice Shael, and so forth and so on, who goes heavy upon whether it's what stem of the Hebrew it is. There are 7 main stems within the Hebrew language, brothers and sisters. For instance, the word Shabbat, which we are observing, is part of the qual stem. The word akal is part of, brothers and sisters, the matter of what? The qual stem. All right. The word shata means what? To drink. That is inside the book Hebrew for Couples Part 2. Shata means to drink, and that is in the qual stem. All right. So if there's any questions or comments, please feel free to comment. I can also currently be reached via text or otherwise, if you don't care to say it online, at the number 908 587 4841. All right. I can be reached at 908 587 4841. All right. If there's any questions or comments and you care to reach me by phone currently, you can do so by text in that particular manner. All righty. So now let's get back to the laser pointer and move on, if we will, right? I shall toklu, which you all shall eat. Mikol hapema, from all hapema. Behema, brothers and sisters, we're going to highlight here The word behema means beast. Mikol hapema, from all the beasts, asher, which is al ha'aretz, on or upon ha'aretz. Aretz meaning what? Earth. All right. So that's something we want to point out for reasonable purposes. The simplicity and the easiness. In this particular case, you have it to where there was no mistranslation. But what we're going to get into, this is like the intro, if you will. What we're going to get into and ask people, get your pens, get your pads, get your paper. Whether you're hearing this live now or live at another time, which is actually not live, but more so a recording that's been uploaded. All right. These presentations are free of charge, and I am open to constructive criticism. 2 reasons: giving honor and praise unto the Most High. It says, let everything that have breath praise Yah. So with the breath that the Most High has given me and the peace that the Most High has given me, certain things I may not talk about online, about the magnificence of the work of Yah. Give him his glory. Use your mouth as a mouthpiece to praise Yah. Commit your works to Yah and your thoughts will be established. Let's say that again. Commit your works to Yah and your thoughts will be established. This is not to say that it should not say commit your thoughts to Yah and your works will be established. Because to think is one thing. That's easier than put the work in. But once you put your works in first, showing the Most High what it is. On a human level, not to get sidetracked. When a man approaches to a woman, he comes with something, whatever it may be. A drink, flowers, whatever it might be. Mishte, strong drink, perakim, flowers. It could sit there and be a berit, a lease or a contract, whatever it may be. Come with something. O ye sons of Yisrael. When we approach before the Most High on Passover and on the Feast of Weeks and then the Feast of Booths, we're not supposed to appear empty. Every man shall give according to the blessing he has. So if you have a blessing to be able to speak upon the word of Yah, cursed be he who withholds his sword from shedding blood. So if you're able to sit there and slay the lie, and you have the ability to do so, that's not going to be blessed. I'm not going to get too personal, but when a brother had fallen off and slipped and not doing what is right before Yah, Yah pulled the young man back like, come on back. You always talk about, my Imam raised me in this. Your Imam didn't raise you to do certain things. So when a brother slipped up, the Most High took the time, come on back, I still want you, and put you right back in a position of teaching what you was doing beforehand. All right? So this is something we want to point out. Shalom. Kesed, I can't pronounce. Sarange Yah wrote, Shabbat Shalom, family. Blessings to each one in your bloodline, seed, DNA, and covenant relationships daily. Thank you for that statement. So that's something we want to point out for edification purposes. That's Sotai. If so, Shalom, elder. So let's get into this. Giving honor to Yah, creator, maker, heaven and earth. As stated, get your pens, get your pads, get your paper, and take notes. Let's go. Exodus chapter 5, verse 3. And they said, the God of the Hebrews has met with us. Let us go, we pray thee, 3 days' journey into the wilderness and sacrifice unto Yah our power, lest he fall upon us with pestilence or with the sword. So let's look. And it says here, using brothers and sisters, the laser pointer, right? Why yomru Elohe ha'ibrim nikra aleinu nelkana derek shaloshet yamin bamidbar when these bakala Yehovah Eloheinu pin yif gaenu ba deber o be kareb. Now, let's go 3 days journey in the wilderness. Where were they at, brothers and sisters? They was in the land of the Egyptians. So now when they say in Exodus 5, verse 3, the God of the Hebrews has met with us. Who were these Hebrews that were being spoken of? These Hebrews were the Israelites. But when you're addressing an oppressor, you're going to speak maybe in the way the oppressor would understand. So when we say black people, we know good and well that we're not black. For those who saw it earlier, the head covering I have on my head is black. My skin complexion is brown. My lady's complexion is light brown. You understand? But we use the term black for understanding purposes, if we will. So did they in ancient days use the term Ibrim or Kabiru or Apiru, be it stated in the Akkadian form of it, for edification and understanding purposes? All right. The God of the Hebrews have met with us. Let us go, we pray thee, 3 days journey in the wilderness and sacrifice unto the Lord our God. What else can we gather from this? Not taking nothing from the portion. Sitting down asking for reparations, you ain't going to get no bargaining. See, Pharaoh was not going to just let the slaves go like everything be all right and I'm going to give you something. The Most High said that through his mighty hand will this thing happen. Do shoftim or judgments. So trying to bargain with the slave master is not going to work. Please give me freedom so I don't have to work for you. What he's hearing is, let me be able to not be your best product. That's what the oppressor is hearing. So to go in reparation meetings, to sit there and state, we due to slavery or owe this, it is not going to come willingly by the oppressor's hand. So this is something we want to point out for edification purposes. Now, looking upon this, brothers and sisters, with the highlighter, pardon me, with the laser pointer. No, with the highlighter, sorry. Why Yomru? What do we want to point out? Again, it starts with the letter wow in this case here. When a wow is attached, this is why I say get your pens, your pads, and your paper. When a wow is attached to a verb in the Bible, brothers and sisters, in most cases, over 90% of the cases, it is turning that future tense into the past tense or the past tense into a future tense, as pointed out several minutes ago. This word yomru means what? They will say. Right? So now, with it saying they will say, with it being preceded, by the letter wow, it means and they said. So there was no mistranslation there. Elohe ha'ibrim, the God of the Hebrews, nikra aleinu. Now let's go over this if we will. This is one of my favorite words. All right, with the pen. Nikra. From the root word nikra itself. Met with us. Called unto us by command. The God of the Hebrews have met with us. What you're seeing in that word nikra is in, brothers and sisters, what is referred to as the nif'al stem. In the qual stem, it would be the word quara. Quara, but with a kuf, a resh, and an aleph. Meaning that since it ends in the letter aleph, brothers and sisters, it is a lamed aleph verb. And that means to call or to read. The God of the Hebrews, he was called Aleinu. Aleinu means what? Concerning us. The word al, in this case, means on or about. The God of the Hebrews was called concerning us. The English has it as met with us. But how was the God of the Hebrews called? By the people crying out. By the people crying out to the Most High, which they did not want you to do in slavery. The book by Samuel Levine called A Matter Regarding Slavery. Once the name comes to me, I'll sit there and state it, and I'll put it inside of the description. But there's a book by Samuel Levine regarding slavery, where in Florida, the slave masters, Florida, the good old Sunshine State, was a slave state, was saying that we didn't bring you here to serve God, we brought you here to serve us. In prayer service in the South, their overseer had to be around when the slaves were praying. What was he having to be around for? To make sure, in truth, that you do not call on the God of the Old Testament. That's why he was there, to make sure of that, to monitor your prayers. So when we prayed in pots with water in it, so the sound won't be heard in Virginia. Me and my lady just went through the town called Spotsylvania County. It was recorded that they used to pray in pots with water in it so the prayer won't be heard. No disrespect to brothers to the New Testament. The New Testament tells you go in the closet and pray. Why are you going in the closet and praying? Why can't you pray in the open for everybody to understand that you're calling upon the Most High? Not that you're putting on a show. But if was who I was when I was younger, a thief, I don't want you to sit there and pray against thieves in my presence. If a brother or sister's not living right, no, don't sit there and say that. So brothers and sisters, when you're dealing with the Most High and you're taking accountability and the people were saying, we are being oppressed, Yah, come and help us. The God of our forefathers help us. That's why it now says in the Hebrew here to get a deeper understanding. Elohe ha'ibrim nikra aleinu. The God of the Hebrews, he was called Nikra. Let me sit there and circle this so we can gain some understanding. All right, we're going to highlight this and circle it. This word Nikra, no, we're going to erase it so it can be shown. Clarity. I want to emphasize that for a reason. Highlighter. No, highlighter. Highlighter, brothers and sisters. There we go. Nikra, we got right here with the time allotted. Thank you to the people who took out the time today to want to hear a brother speak upon this. And pen, we're going to circle this. The God of the Hebrews, he was called concerning us. Call out to the Most High. Quara means to call. The word you see there circle right now is nikra. That means he was called. That is the passive, the nif'al stem. He was called by his people. So they don't want us to call in this new Egypt the God of the Old Testament. You know, Nat Turner, though he believed in the old and the new, always used the old as a thesis to do what he did. Gideon is in the book of Judges. Joshua has his own book in the Old Testament. David is mentioned in Chronicles. David is mentioned in Psalms. David is mentioned in the book of Kings and Samuel. And this is whom he spoke upon when he was leading it. When he was found by Benjamin Phipps in the 1830s, they found a copy of Joshua chapter 9 in his pocket. Let's go on. Nelkana Derek Shaloshet Yamim Bamidbar. Now, the second word we're going to show here, circle, thank you for the time, family, right, is the word Midbar. Midbar means wilderness, brothers and sisters. So it comes in root from the word dabar. Dabar means thing. Dabar means word. So that mem, which we want to show, brothers and sisters, we're going to erase this so it can stand out. All right. With the pen. Right. Meatball here. And highlighter, that letter mem. The ball mean a word or thing, right? And the word meatball meaning what? Here, wilderness. So when they say, let us go out into the thing or into the things, because you don't know what you're going to see in the wilderness. So the closest word Israel I have for what is translated as wilderness is the thing. Whatever that thing may be that we run into. So this is what we want to point out for reference purposes. Why? Nis bakalaya elahenu. Pen yifkaenu ba deber o ba kereb. Now, what can we point out here? Ba deber. Deber here, the dalit, the bet, the resh. Then you got dalit bet resh, meaning word or thing. But here, deber, same lettering, is translated as what? Pestilence. So now you have the bar and root, meaning a word or a thing. So if they're going out into the thing, translated as wilderness, they don't know what thing it could be out there. So when they're now saying they're bad as plague or pestilence, that could be anything. It's not one cookie cut way of such. Going into the wilderness, don't know what you're going to see. Pestilence, anything can sit there and happen. And then it says, O Bakereb, or the sword. Kereb means sword. Some brothers in Israel call their Bible the Kereb or Karab, meaning sword. What else can we gather? Mount Horeb, Har Koreb. Karab means sword, or Kereb means sword, because it cuts. The sword cuts in Hebraic thought. So when we see Kereb or Mount Horeb, the what? The mountain of the sword is where the Most High gave the commandments from. If it cuts you, if you a thief, good. Stop stealing. If it cuts you because you don't want to keep Shabbat, good. Keep the seventh day holy. If it cuts you because you like idols, good. Stop making gods and bowing down to it. If it cuts you because you like another man's wife, good. You shouldn't sit there and deal like that. And this is not to sound carnal. The Most High made more women than men. You got an option if in your marriage you want to do polygamy. So to sit there and do adultery is like, are you serious? There's no need for that. The Most High, and we're not on the level of David, said, if you wanted more wives, I would have given them to you. You didn't have to go ahead and do that. But we can learn from David's what? Ruach Anal, his humble spirit. Well, if Uriah was home handling his business. No. That's wicked thought. That was his wife. She would have never moved on me. No. That's wicked thought. So when your spot is blown, or when your iniquity, like Leviticus 5 says, comes to your remembrance or to your knowledge, check yourself. Self-assess. Brothers and sisters. Grade yourself. See where you stand at, like women been saying to us as brothers online. Would you want your daughter to date a guy like you? I think that's kind of biased in many cases, because most fathers be like, not my baby, no matter what. He may have to be convinced and investigate the gentleman. So I'm saying all of that to say, brothers and sisters, that the word kereb, that you see this sword, like Horeb in the English, is the same as Mount Sinai, where the commandments was given. So in Hebraic thought, karab meaning to destroy, and parts into slay, that's what it is. It's meant to sit there and destroy and burn out its wickedness within you, whoever you may be. Let the wicked forsake his way, and the unrighteous man his what? His thoughts. And as stated earlier, when you put, brothers and sisters, your what? Your works to Yah, your thoughts to be established. You got to work for Yah first for your thoughts to come to be. And the Most High sees the work of your hands, and actually may let others who may not even know or call upon Yah sit there and see him or her, this and that. They want this, he's this, she's that. These are things we want to point out for reference purposes. Be that light. Now, getting back into this right here. What can we gather in Hebrew from this with the time allotted? Thank you all for the time. Let's look. And we want to show this, brothers and sisters, with the pen. Right? Circle that. And circle that. What are we circling? My favorite letter, the letter Nun. Why? Nelka, let us go. Nelka, let us go. So you have Nelek, means what? The word Nelek, brothers and sisters, means we will go. Nelka means let us go. So let us, brothers and sisters, with the highlighter, with the letter Hey right here. Nelek means we will go. Nelka means let us go. It's like a petition. And by having the feminine, not to say no disrespect to females, when you have the letter Hey, in many cases, it's a form of a petition. Zakra, remember, please. Now in Hebrew, you have Mizraima to Egypt, Arazah to the earth, Baita to the house, Mizraima to Egypt. The feminine principle in Hebrew shows a lot. And in showing this lot, brothers and sisters, is what we want to get into for Hebrew grammar. You cannot get into Hebrew and diss the feminine principle. You will not be able to make a petition. Let us go. It will just be go, roar. We will go, roar. Harsh, if someone to use that word. But a soft word turns away anger, says the book of Proverbs. So, brothers and sisters, we see this here. Wa needs baka. Again, ending with the letter Hey. Let us go and let us sacrifice. The word zabak, a brother that I know by name, the word zabak means sacrifice, brothers and sisters. So, this is what we want to talk about. Then we have here, pen yifka enu. This noon with the vowel is where you get us that you're seeing here. Get your pens, your pads, and your paper. Now, the word fall, right, that you see here in the English, it comes from this word here, paga. Pay, gamel, iron. It's the same root word that David used, brothers and sisters, when the Amalekite lied and said, he killed Saul. Pegabo, fall against him. Annihilate him, slaughter him. What can we learn from David's character? And this is not saying we are on the level of David. I remember one time my mother had a problem with one of the neighbors. So I felt this my place to disrespect that neighbor. My mother whooped my behind. She fell on me, if we will. Me having a problem as an adult with my neighbor is none of your business, child. I didn't ask you to do that. Like David didn't ask the Amalekite having problems with Saul, you'll handle that for me. And he ain't coming, you're not helping me out. You're creating more problems. This is my father-in-law. He's above that, he's the anointed. And if I didn't do it when I had 2 times to do it, then what makes you think I'm okay with you doing that? That's literally taking too much upon yourself. And then on top of that, you're lying because it's all committed suicide. So if I were to give you honor, it would have been through a lie. And if I gave you honor, how will my God view that? How will my wife view that? That's her dad. She lost a dad. She lost a brother. And I'm now going to side with those who are against my father-in-law. You got to be sick. Character. And on top of that, that's the Most High's anointed. You understand? And so I'm saying that to say what, brothers and sisters? No one's place. And it's not to be self-centered. That's why you don't see me singing online or rapping online. I can't sing. I can't rhyme. But I think the Most High to have a couple of books and be able to use the internet to put a PowerPoint together. Stay in your lane and know where your role is at. And when it's time to grow and advance, don't stay there. When it's time to make a move and grow, if the Most High is promoting you, all right? Kesed Sotai wrote, the letter Nun hide from the eyes of the mind. I have a handful of letters that should be known to me, yet I draw a blank. All right. In writing, the letter Nun hides from the eyes of my mind. Can you explain what you mean by that? Thank you, Elder, in that case. But the letter Nun, personally, is my favorite letter. I don't know why. It just always was since I was a little kid, and so forth and so on, or should I say a child. All right. Let us continue on, brothers and sisters. Kesed Sarang Haya Ya. So you're saying the letter Nun lacks recognition? Zephaniah chapter 3, verse 9. Let's get into this, brothers and sisters. For then will I turn to the peoples of pure language, that they may all call upon the name of Yah to serve him with one consent. This is not saying that the Hebrew we know of today is going to be changed, like some people would say. Because the Hebrew we're speaking is the same Hebrew that Zephaniah you spoke and we're translating from. So it's not saying that. It is saying similar to what Hosea chapter 2, 16 to 18 says, that I will take the names of the Baalim out of your mouth, and you will only call upon the Most High. And you will call me Ishi, my husband, and no longer Baali, my Lord. Meaning what? The Most High is going to be married to the house of Israel. And in our culture, a wife, we don't do polyandry. So your wife, Israel's the wife for the Most High. You can't have two gods. You understand? And in this case, is a particular marriage where, for the lack of a better term, it's a monogamous marriage. Because nobody holds the same level with the Most High as the house of Israel. Because he said, Israel have I known of all the families of the earth. Therefore will I visit you upon all your iniquities. So you can't blend in like the chameleon, old sons of Israel. You understand what I'm saying? Like where everybody for no, you have a particular portion. When the nations rejoice in their wickedness, Yisrael, you do not. And when the nation prepare for war, Yisrael, you prepare to meet your God. Again, this is no disrespect intended to the brothers and sisters who subscribe and support the channel who happen to be messianic. The future of Israel in the Old Testament is different than the future of Israel in the New Testament. In the New Testament, you got 144,000 only males. In the Old Testament, it says that he will sit there and have the house of David, the house of Nathan, and the house of Levi, each to their own with their wives. In the book of Zechariah, chapter 10 and or chapter 14, pardon me. In one of them chapters, so it talks about in the ending of days for Israel, when their wives and their husbands will be joined together. Whereas in the future of Israel, in the said New Testament, you have only males as 144,000 in Revelation 14. So again, when Israel's future is told and with the nation's future does not coincide because Israel is severed, is separated from the nations. That is why going for reparations, sitting with these people, they can't give it to you. If they pay you back for what they did, then how is that going to sit there and have to make it be what the Most High said, I will destroy the nations utterly for what they did? Now, if they give you a handout, pardon the term, here's $100,000, here's 40 acres and a mule. If they do that, then how's the prophecy of the Most High of what he says he's going to do to them come to pass? Zephaniah states their silver and their gold will not be able to save them in the day of the Most High's wrath. So you can't pay me to not get sidetracked from the portion. You cannot pay me for cutting out the black woman's womb, for taking a black man's head off and kicking around like a soccer ball, for hanging a pregnant black woman upside down and cutting the baby out and stepping on the head, or for castrating the man. You can't pay somebody that to repair that. What money can compensate for separating one from their parents? What money can compensate for sitting there and causing that kind of matter to be? Nothing. Therefore, anything that they can try to offer will never be, because the Most High is coming for blood. This is not to promote violence. This is not to promote whatever it is in the language of such, but it's talking the scriptures and what the creator of heaven and earth will do. You understand? All right. So now, let's go to the language in this department, right? Laser pointer. Ki as folk el ha'amim. Safa berura. Likro kulam b'shem yod he wahe. La abdo shikem ekad. Shekem ekad, meaning consent. The word shekem, spelled shin, kaf, mem, so feet also means shoulder. Hashkem means to be early, when you add a hey in front of it. When he rose up early in the morning. So it wasn't Israel's style to sleep to what we call 10 a.m., 11 a.m., 12 p.m., 1. That day is gone practically. We early birds, for the lack of a better term. Especially, they say elders, they go, no matter what time they go to sleep, they wake up at the same time early. They may go back to sleep, you understand? But we just want to point that out for edification purposes. All right? So now, it says what going along with the laser pointer. Follow along, family, and I'm not saying this to, when I say follow along, same reason why I don't call people old enough to be my mother, my father, a student. I would never say y'all my students, even though people call me Moray. You're my elders. You're my brothers and sisters. You're not my students. All right. So, ki as, because then, if folk, hafak means to what? To change. El ha'amim, I would change to the peoples. Safa berura. Now, that's the word that we want to talk about there in this particular case. Highlighter. The word barura. Now, let's break that down. The word bar in Aramaic means son, S-O-N. But in Hebrew, the word bar means what? Anybody? Can you type it in? What does bar mean in Hebrew? Anybody? What does the word bar mean, brothers and sisters, in Hebrew? Anybody? Because then once we get that, thank you for that. Yes. The word bar means clean. It means clear. It means pure. So now when we deal with that word bar in Hebraic way, barur came. The word barur comes from the root word bara. What do we gather from that? Bara means what? To be clean, to be pure. That's the verb. Bar is the adjective and a noun, and the verb of it is barar. Anytime in Hebrew, as pointed out in Hebrew, it's Easy Volume 3, when you have the second and third letter as the same letter, it means that it's an iron verb. Bar, barar, clean, purify, pure. Safa berura. This is saying that all of the idols are going to be erased out. Likro kulam b'shem yod he wahe. To call. Kulam, meaning all of them. Let's go about this with the laser pointer so we can see what it is. Likro, to call. Kulam, all of them, b'shem, in the name of Yod he wahe, the Most High. La abdo, to be his servant, to serve unto him. Shekem, consent. Shekem, unity, in slang term, perhaps, if you want to use slang. Echad, one consent. So not we serve God this way and we serve God that way. No, not in that case. Zephaniah 9, because Israelites, no disrespect intended, may not study Hebrew to a certain extent, is not to be used saying, well, the language we're dealing with now is what it is. No. Find your teacher, study, and show yourself to be approved in your studies. You understand? Let us not sit there and go about the way, well, it's not important. If it wasn't important, then why were they doing it? I want to say this as a brother who studied the language, and it's not to be haughty, because I always say find your teacher, right? To say Hebrew's not important is to say that a ketubah is not important. We speaking. Long as I'm saying things that's right, we together. As long as we're saying we're together, what's the point in a marriage certificate or a ketubah? We can do the same thing with or without a ketubah, right? We can get a house together, and in this country, you can live 7 years and then you'll be deemed married. So to say Hebrew's not important is similar to saying a ketubah is not important, because after all, you're still living together. After all, you're just speaking. Why have any documentation of such? Why not put in the work to study the language? Why not put in the work to sit there and have it on contract? Sorry, teachers in Israel who teach, no knock on anyone. Well, a marriage certificate, is not really that important. Do you see a certificate with Abraham and Sarah? Yeah. It says, Sarah, your wife, by the Most High. That's certified in the papers called the Bible. That's your marriage certificate right there. Yep. Isaac and Rebecca. And he took her to be his wife. That right there is your marriage certificate right there in the Torah. Yep, that's there. Give me my wife that I may know her, said Jacob. Yep, that's right there. And he gave Leah instead, and then he had to wind up working for Rachel. See the difference? As opposed to, well, we're just speaking. If you want to have the spirit of Esau, a woman's a woman. It don't matter if I deal with the daughters of Heth, the Hittites. Rebecca, no, my son. No, you're supposed to go yonder. Like they found me, your mommy yonder. We have a tradition of going yonder for our marriages. Esau did what women today talk about they don't want to do. I ain't settling. Ain't that the statement? I ain't settling. Just for this or that. Esau settled for just this or that. That's not the way we're supposed to be. You understand? It's character, if we will. All right? So, barura means what? Pure, clear, clean. The word barar, the verb, means to be clean. Pardon me, it means to clean. All right? To purify. So that's what we want to point out with that. Now that which is prepared for me one day was 1 ox and 6 choice sheep. Also fowls were prepared for me, and once in 10 days store of all sorts of wine. Yet for all this I demanded not the bread of the governor, because the service was heavy upon this people. This coming out of the book of Nehemiah. Don't tell me Israel ain't drink wine. All right? Wa asher haya na'aseh leyom echad. Shor echad. What does echad mean? What does echad mean, brothers and sisters? Anybody in the chat? Shor echad. Yes. Thank you, my lady Sarah. Thank you, Elder Kesed. Yeah, yes. It means one. Shor echad, zone, shes berurot. Wazi parim na asuli. Now, what are we pointing out with the highlighter? All right, is this berurot. Then we not just go over the word bal, barar, and berura and berurot. Is the plural of berura. Any questions? Right? Any questions concerning this? Okay, I think the brother Nekemia was saying that the word akkad means alone. In some ways, yes, but the literal word more so for alone is the word labad. All right, I want to type that in. All right. The word labad more so means, in that case, alone. All right. Now, berurot that you see there highlighted is what? Translated here in this English, choice. So 6 choice sheep. Sheish berurot. Sheish meaning 6 brothers and sisters. But it's translated berurot, the plural of berura, here in the book of Nehemiah as the word choice. Why do I point that out? Because having that which is pure, having that which is cleansed, like the word barar means to clean, is supposed to be your choice. That is the meaning in me bringing that out. All right. There's any questions, there's any comments, please feel free to state in the chat. All right. So let's go on to the next part. Now, that was the intro, and for those who can see, I'm getting my pen, which means the brother's getting a certain kind of mode. Thank the Most High. In this particular matter, we had to use the words of my brother Hashar. You got to give the milk before the meat. So we had our intro, we had our foreword. Now we're going to talk about these mistranslations. Be it in the King James Version, the New International Version, the Masoretic Text, or any other version out there. So we're asking you, if you didn't before, get your pens, your pad, and your paper, and let's go over Genesis chapter 1, verse 1. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. The Hebrew, let's use the laser pointer, if we will, brothers and sisters. All right? Bereshit bara Elohim et hashamayim wa et haaretz. Now let's look at this, brothers and sisters, for edification purposes. All right? If I can be heard, and if you in good spirits, please type in the number 6, not 4 this time, please. If you're in good spirits and if I can be heard, type in the number 6 so we can sit there and see what it is getting into this particular matter. All right, let's go with the laser pointer highlighter. All right, the word et here, the word et here. What does this mean, brothers and sisters? It's used in front of something that is definite article. Et hashamayim, the heavens, not just heaven. Et hashamayim, specifically the heavens. Wa et haaretz, and the earth. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, but the foolish despise wisdom and discipline. Why do we go over this? It says what? Yirat yorewahe reshit da'at kakma u musar a wilim ewilim silika bazu. Despise, bazu. The same root word baza used when it says Esau despised his birthright. While you bears, you still hear that B and Z sound. While you bears, bazu. They're into the Hebrew, understand the pattern of it. This is why we go over this. This is not to slander no one, to insult no one, pick your own teacher. And this is not to say, I don't need you as a quote unquote student. Be careful. Listen, Moray. If you're a Moray, let me tell you something, man. Sidebar. You don't ever fix your mouth with your fingers to say you don't need something. You hear me? Now let's get back into this particular matter right here. The fear of the Most High is the beginning of knowledge. So let's color code this highlighter with this here, right? Beginning. From this word here, reshit. From this word here, reshit. Reshit, resh in Hebrew, the letter means head or beginning or leader or chief. So now when some say it's supposed to mean, oh, in a beginning, such is not the case. And how we know that? The fear of the Most High is the beginning of knowledge. But Reshit is the word itself. So the word Reshit means beginning. It means head. It means leader. Cain. The word Reshit is spelled with the letters Resh, Aleph, Sheen, Yod, and Tau. All right. The fear of Yah is the beginning of knowledge. Yirat Yah, Reshit Da'at. So what do we want to point this out? You have the word Yareh in Hebrew, which means what? Fear or respect. Then you have the word Pakad. Pakad, brothers and sisters, means what? Terrified, frightened, or scared. So there's a fear that's respect in Hebrew, and then there's a fear that's you scared. See how the verbs work? One is Yareh that you see there, and then there's the word Pakad, which means terrified or frightened or scared. So there's the two different types of fears in that way. All right. So Kakma Umusar. Wisdom, Umusar, discipline. You have to have discipline as a person, as I spoke upon last week. Bodybuilders have a discipline. Vegans have a discipline. Soldiers have a discipline. This is not to talk business on the Sabbath. Solomon said, a fool and his money soon depart. I ask people, yo, how you make what I make and you can save like that? Discipline. Don't buy what you don't need. That takes a discipline. Everybody ain't got it like that. Some people let it burn a hole in their pocket. I just spend money. That kind of spirit. That's a lack of discipline. Doesn't mean you're stupid or a sinner. It just means that you may not be yielding or using as much wisdom as could be and should be used, and don't feel insulted. You understand? When you can look at somebody like Monique, whom the doctor said if you don't lose weight is going to hurt your heart, Andre the Giant situation, that's what happened with that. Big Pun the Rapper situation, that's what happened with that. So you have to have a discipline for a purpose. Musar is the word for discipline. You understand? Kakma, from the word kakam, to be wise. And in dealing in wisdom, there are certain things you do and then certain things you don't do. You understand? If you have that ahaba or that love, then you know there are certain things that you do not do because you know in wisdom that's not going to give you the best result. You understand? And so now getting back into the language, Isaiah 46, declaring the end from the beginning and from the ancient times, things that are not yet done, saying, my counsel shall stand and all my pleasure will I do. Now, what can we gather from this using the laser pointer? Magid mereshit. Magid means what? Declaring or telling. It comes, brothers and sisters, from the root word hagid, which means to tell. Nagid, I will tell. Magid that you see right here, and this takes us back to the letter mem with its highlighter. We want to use a different color, all right? The last line you see here in here. That mem shows it to be in the present tense of the he filled stem. Any questions, please feel free to ask. Magid, telling or declaring. Mereshit, from the beginning, akarit. What does akarit mean? It comes from the root word akar, to be late or that which is behind. Like your rear end in Hebrew is called your akareyot or your buttocks in that particular case. So now the word me'ukar means late. Ani me'ukar la'aboda hayom. I am late for work today. You understand? That's what we don't want to be in wisdom. All right. So we don't want to be known as the akerim, the late. We want to be known as the ma'asim or the doers, because then you won't be too early or too late in that particular case, to show you how people may not understand or think. And this is not to slander nobody. Let a child be a child. If he's 13, 14 years old and he had the ability to go to college, don't let him go, because he's going to be deprived of his childhood. Many of us did our taxes. Question: you want to be ahead of it or behind on it? So a person can be advanced or skip a grade, or if a person, correct me if I'm wrong, I think the word is clemency, if they be able to get out of jail. Don't try to hold him or her back. That's not true love. You understand? That's why Harriet Tubman will always be respected. Because not only did she escape and make free, she went back for others and did the same. That's very important. Feel me on that particular case. So now let's look. Magid Mareshit, declaring or telling from the beginning, Akari, telling the end from the beginning. Omekwedem. Now let's look at this. We're going to erase it so it could be shown with more clarity. Right? Umekwedem. What does kedem mean? Or kwedem? That's a popular grape juice. Kedem or kwedem means what? Ancient. East. When you hear X-Clan talk about to the east, my brother, what they're saying in part in the Hebraic understanding is to the ancient. Orient is the Greek word meaning ancient. They try to use it for the word east or for Chinese. But the word Orient simply means ancient. Now, when you deal in Hebrew, the word Quedem means east, E-A-S-T. Quedma means eastern. But we see here ancient. So Eastern thought is ancient thought in Hebraic thought. All right? Asher lo na'asu. The things that are not done yet. Now, let's look and color code this, brothers and sisters. This word you see here, na'asu. You will not see this inside the qual stem. This word here, for those familiar with the verb patterns and the verb nifal, qual, pl, and so on, this is inside, brothers and sisters, the nifal stem. What you see there is the things that are not yet done. Mekwedem from the ancient, asher, which lo na asu, that which is not done. Asa, ayin, seen, hey. Asa means what? To do or to make. Now, asu, in its nifal form, means to be done. Now, asu, they, that which is done. They were done. Lo, na asu, the things that were not done. And that's how Hebraic thought works in that case. Any questions or comments, please feel free to ask. Omer Azati, saying. Now I'm going to again erase what's on here. And I'm going to, with the highlighter, show this. Omer Magid. Both of those words there are in the present tense. Now let's go back, if we will, right? Remember when we had brothers and sisters, and I'm going to circle it so you can see what I'm talking about. They more seen it being circled. And that's translated as the word saying. That more so means saying like In the past tense, this is what was being said. So saying in the past tense, if you will. Now, this saying that we see here, brothers and sisters, now being circled in Isaiah 46, means more so the present tense. All right. If there's any questions or comments, let it be asked. Azati takum. Oh, let's go in giving thanks unto the Most High in grammar. Right. Remember, we spoke before about the feminine matter. Azati, my counsel. How do you say counsel in Hebrew, brothers and sisters? Is the Hebrew word etzah. Etzah ends with the letter hey. The letter hey, like the letter tau, is a feminine letter. So etzah means my advice or my counsel. So to show it in possessive, mine, yours, his, and hers, that hey, as pointed out in Hebrews Easy Volume 4, that hey becomes a tau. So etzah, meaning counsel or advice, becomes ezati, my counsel. But remember, etzah is a feminine word. So now when you show the aspect of the verb or the adjective connected to it, it must in grammar agree in gender. I must state this again. It must in grammar agree with the gender. And that is why there is no Hebrew word for trans. And you know what I'm talking about. They don't want us to say certain words on the internet, on YouTube. There is no Hebrew word if you was born a male and you decided to identify as a female. There's no Hebrew word for you. You cut off in Hebraic thought. If you are born a female and you say that you identify as a male, there is no Hebrew word specifically for you if you want to do the transforming. There's no Hebrew word for that. You're either masculine or feminine. So let's look, brothers and sisters, right? We have here azati. What we're circling, this T, right, is an associated tool with this tile. When I say T, I'm talking about tile. Sorry, let me say it as such. Erase all, then with the highlighter. This T sound you see here and this tile here both show feminine matter. Azati, that hey becomes a tile. My counsel, my advice. Takum shall stand. When you hear people say quam, quum, qumu, well, takum means it will stand, you will stand, or she will stand. So my counsel, she will stand. Because remember, counsel in Hebrew is in a feminine matter, so you have to say it as she will stand in this case. So let us not become misogynistic. As pointed out before, sons of Israel, we cannot have, as pointed out, a matter of what? Seleucid and Ptolemaic, that the camp of no man. That's not Israel. To show how important it is to have the females around, there's a time when certain females just be around other females when they in their cycle. They may need their important time to each other. But the fact that she gets, quote, a break during her cycle time in Hebraic culture shows you how important it's, because if it wasn't important, you don't need a break. That just goes to show you how valuable your time is when you're not on, quote, break. The word nida, nun, dalet, hey, literally means separation. It's translated usually as, or understood usually as, her uncleanness. But the word nida doesn't mean unclean. The word nida, oh, she's on her nida, what that means is she's in her separation. Because in Hebraic thought, that's not normal blood. That is blood due to the fact that the betza, or the egg, was not fertilized by the zera, or the sperm, in the rakem, or the womb, and there was, brothers and sisters, no tinok, or male baby, or tinoquet, female baby, that was conceived, brothers and sisters, inside of the womb. That's what that is in that particular case. All right. So we want to point that out for edification purposes. Now, it says this: Wakal and all in each kept z esse, kept Z from the word what? Kafet. I'm going to highlight, take your pen and paper, please. The word kept Z. Kafat means what? To rejoice, to find pleasure. Say, I will do. Brothers and sisters, sidebar. Israelites to say that ahaya or ehye, meaning I will be. If I am saying I will be, I am talking of my very self. When you read in Psalms, blessed be he, blessed be him who created the heavens and the earth. It doesn't say blessed be I, saying the Most High said of himself, I am the Lord thy God. So therefore, the great I am, we can't as humans say the great I am, because you're talking about yourself when saying I am, brother or sister. But when you are addressing the Most High, knowing before whom you stand, it says blessed be he, because you're talking one to another in prayer, not praying to each other, but you're saying one to another, holy, holy. Holy is the holy, pardon me, what it says in Isaiah, holy, holy, holy is the Lord of hosts. The whole earth is full of his glory. Those angels wasn't saying the whole earth is full of my glory. It's not the I when you're speaking of the Most High. It is the he. So that's what we want to point out. So the holy name of the Most High, when Moses said, what is thy name that I may say? And it says in the Hebrew, Echye Asher Ehye, which means I will be that which I will be. He became the God of Israel. So this is what we want to point out. Any questions concerning that or other matters of this, let it be known. Again, get your pens, get your pads, get your paper, and take notes. Any questions? If I can be heard and the people in good spirits, please type in the number 4. If I can be heard and people in good spirits, please type in the number 4. Genesis chapter 1, verse 26. And God said, let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth. Wayomer Elohim, Naase Adam Bazal Menu, Kid Mutenu, Wayerodu, Bid Gat Hayam, Ub Ofashamayim, Ubab Hema, Bakal Haaretz, Ubkal Haremes, Haromes al Haaretz. What can we gather from this in Hebrew? First, and God said, let us make man in our image. The let us is not God and Jesus. The let us is God, the Most High, and the elements that he used to make man. What is man made of? And the Bible, the Torah, is a man's book. So, of course, we're going to, as humans, say the Most High used what he already made to make man, because man was made out of the dust of the ground. The minerals that composes of man, the magnesium, the potassium. I'll go so far to say as the iron, the zinc, and as well as the electric. Because sometimes when you touch yourself, it sparks. That means we got electric in us. Sometimes when you comb or pick your hair, you hear the sparkling within it. So these are things and elements among many other things that the Most High used as what he already created in the making of man. It's not giving glory to Jesus, saying that he was beside that when it says, let us make man. All right? Let us make man in our image after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea after our likeness. What likeness is that? Because what did the Most High say? His spirit would not abide in man, for he also is flesh. That's not saying that God is flesh. That's saying that, as it says in Psalms chapter 82, I said, ye are gods, or ye sons of the Most High. When Saul went to the witch of Endor, she said, I see gods ascending and descending. When you go in the book of Exodus and it says you should not revile the judges, the Hebrew word that's used in the book of Exodus, when you read you should not revile the judges, is the word Elohim, which means in this case gods. You understand? So when brothers and sisters, Rachel, handmaid, Bilhah, gave birth to Naphtali. Rachel said, Naphtalim Elohim, Naphtati Ba'akoti. With mighty wrestlings have I wrestled with my sister. So the word Elohim, used in naming the tribe of Naphtali, shows it to be what? Mighty. So Elohim means mighty ones. It means gods. It means judges. And these are words that you see in this particular case. And we're going to talk about the word Elohim as well in this. All right. So Elder typed in, I thought us was spoken was wisdom. I've heard that taught before by my teachers. Let's say what you're saying, Ima. Let's say what my teachers taught about the us in Genesis 1:26 being wisdom is true. It will make sense. Because in wisdom, the Most High established the earth and the heavens, says the book of Psalms. So he used wisdom in the creation of it. The reason why I go online here and say that it was the elements that the Most High used in making man is because it says here, after our likeness. So we are dust. We look like the dust from which we came. And we will return to the dust from which we came. If you were to take human, that's to say man, and break him down or her down, it will be made into the molecules of the earth. It wouldn't necessarily be made into, say, wisdom. It will be made into the physical molecules that man is composed of. That's why I lean more toward when it says after our likeness being what is inside the earth that the Most High used to make man. And let them have dominion over the fish of the sea and over the fowl of the air and over the cattle and over all the earth. We are supposed to have rulership on this earth. So when you hear, maybe, not to get sidetracked, we are the fathers of civilization, then the whole earth belongs to us, quote, the black man, for the lack of a better term. Yeah, it does. He didn't give you heaven to go up to. You can't live up there. Your lungs is not going to work well. But down here, we have that. So don't be afraid to travel. Don't be afraid to get your passport. Don't be afraid to sit there. I don't want to get, too much caught up in these planes and these buses. So I'm going to stay put. They already following you. And they don't even need your social to do it. In New York, they follow you when you swipe your Metro card. The bank card with the chip, they're already following you and where you go. So if you're going right with the Most High, we at peace. We ain't got nothing to worry about. Let them sit there and do the work of Yah and you. Let this Illuminati and all these other secret organizations, we're here to track you. And we're here to sit there for the aspect of security. Let the work of the Most High shine through you when they follow you. You understand? So that's something we want to point out for reference purposes. Next slide. Exodus chapter 20, verse 1 through 2. And God spoke all these words, saying, the Hebrew says, brothers and sisters, the laser pointer, Wayidaber Elohim, Eko Hadbarim Ha'ele Lemor. And God, he spoke. Remember, brothers and sisters, we went over this word here, Wayidaber. We're going to erase what's here. And we're going with the pen, circle what we're talking about. Wayidaber. And the Lord spoke. Let's remember this particular matter right here. Daber. He spoke. Then we see here, brothers and sisters, Daber. He spoke. Why Daber Elohim? So Elohim in this case is saying what? Though many times, or Elohim is plural. In this case, Elohim is used for the magnificence, not so much the multiplicity. And this is how we know that Hebrew has to have grammar. Right? We see here, and we want to point this out with the laser pointer. And God spoke. Wadaber Elohim means in God spoke. When we go back here, and we see in the Lord spoke, Wadaber Yod Wahe. The Lord, he spoke. Elohim, he spoke. So though it ends with the word im, it does not automatically make it plural all of the time. This is something we want to point out for reference purposes. Wadaber Elohim, Ekol Hadbarim, Ha'ele Lemor. God spoke all these words, saying, and what is said, I am the Lord thy God, who brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. The Hebrew says, Anoki Yod Hewahe Eloheka. I am Yod Hewahe, he who was, he who will be. Eloheka, your God. Asher Ho Zetika, which I have brought you forth, edit from the land of Mitzrayim, double distress, translated usually as Egypt. Mebeit Abadim, from the house of bondage. See how Abadim ends with im, but it's not bondages. It's not considered, in this case, plural, though it ends with the word im, and we're going to highlight the word I'm talking about so we can understand the im matter pluralization in Hebrew, when it is and when it's not. Abadim, translated here as bondage. Bondage is a magnificent matter of servitude. It's a big form of it. So just as much as that is Elohim in representation of the Most High, is generally understood in English as God. So this is something we want to point out for reference purposes. Lo yihye laka Elohim akerim. You shall not have other gods, al panai, in my presence. This is not saying, brothers and sisters, that the Most High acknowledge that other gods exist, because none of these other gods can say what the Most High said. Remember, the Most High introduced himself as to what he did as well. Not just his name, but what he did. So these people talking about henotheism and Hebraic culture and all this other kind of stuff, and Moinism and Hebraic culture, brothers and sisters, let it be known and understood that such is not the case. Because these other quote-unquote gods that people are talking about, they cannot say what they did for their own people. Remember, their gods are idols. They got mouths that speak not. So let that be known for edification purposes. All right? Any questions? Let it be known. 1 Kings 18. And when all the people saw it, they fell on their faces and they said, the Lord, he is God. The Lord, he is God. Let's see what the Hebrew says. Why yar kal ha'am, why yiflu al panehem, why yomru, yohewahe hu ha Elohim, yohewahe hu ha Elohim. What does who mean? Anybody? That's a pronoun. What does who mean? He is, or it is. Haim means they are. Haim is the plural of the word who. One meaning he is, the other meaning they are. So when we see Yod He Wahe Hu Ha Elohim, the Most High, we're going to show this with the laser pointer, right? Yod He Wahe Hu Ha Elohim, the Lord, he is the powers. The Lord, he is God. It's the immensity and the magnificence of it. Not saying that there's more than one God, brothers and sisters. And this right here points this out. All right. So let's go back into here. Wayar called Ha'am. And upon seeing all the people of it, or when all the people saw it, why ye flew, Let's look at this word right here and gain some Hebraic understanding. We're going to erase everything on here, right? And go over this. Why ye flew and they fell. Take that wow out. You got the word ye flew. Yod, Fe, Lamed, wow. Ye flew means they will fall. But why ye flew means and they fell. Now, fall to fall, in this case, comes from the root word nafal, which means to fall, as pointed out. But again, in grammar, in Hebrew, any verb that starts with the letter nun is called a pay nun verb. So when you conjugate it in the future tense, the nun, given the end sound, drops out. That's why nafal, where they get the word nephilim from, that's a whole other subject. But the word nafal, meaning to fall, sidebar, nephilim doesn't mean giants. Nephilim means fallen ones. Nephilim does not mean giants. Nephilim means fallen ones. Nafal means to fall. Now, if you're talking about Anak, the Anakim, that the spies came back and said in Numbers, we saw the sons of Anak, which they call in the Sumerian text as the Anunnaki. They weren't lying. Their spirituality eye, their third eye was closed, but their physical eyes, they did see what they ain't seen in Egypt. We saw the sons of Anak in Numbers, called the Anunnaki inside the Sumerian text. The book of Amos describes some of them Canaanites whose were as tall as the trees, as the stocks. That's how they were described. So we're going to get into more and more biblical lessons to show the reality of the Israelites connected to the world and what happened. Any questions or comments? Yes, I'm saying that the word Nephilim means fallen from the word nafal, which means to fall. Nephilim by some is stated as many as the fallen angels or the fallen ones, but it's not. Nephilim doesn't mean giants like we think of Andre the Giant or Goliath the Giant. Now, if you talk about Anak, if you start talking about the Rephaim as opposed to the Nephilim, then yeah, those are two different things. You can be a giant yet be regular height in the subject. You could be a giant or a great one or a big one in mathematics. So this, just using that as an example, there's a giant cell, there's a big cell. That's what like giant means. But giant would more so would be like the Gedolim, Gadal meaning to be great or large, or the Gebahot, or the tallest ones. Like Boha in Hebrew means hill, Hill. But when we start talking, brothers and sisters and elders included, about the Nephilim, those are the fallen ones, and those could be regular men that went with the regular humans, the sons of men that went with the daughters of men. So it is about where you put your seed into. When it says the sons of God went into the daughters of men, it's not talking about angels coming down having sex with humans. That's not talking about that. What that is talking about, not to get sidetracked, is men of renown, say like the Aaronite priesthood, dealing with, lack of a better term, what you see sometimes in the street. No names need to be called because everybody got a pass. I've known prostitutes who've cleaned themselves up. I worked with them in the security companies. Real talk. When we had the thing, there's a sister that spoke as an author. She said she used to be a prostitute. Maya Angelou used to be a prostitute. She didn't die as such. I'm saying that to say this. Men or women, we can become Nephilim. We can become fallen ones, and we can also, like the Most High said to Cain, sin crouches at the door, to you it's a desire, but you can rule over it. The Most High is telling you, you got the power to rule over it. Don't let it conquer you. The Most High is telling you, you got that strength. Oh, I'm weak. No, I created what is right and wrong, and I'm telling you not to put words in the Most High's mouth. You can't conquer this. This does not have to have dominion over you. You're supposed to have dominion over it. You're supposed to have dominion over the earth. So how can things of this earth have dominion over you? The tree don't take, like in that movie, not to get sidetracked, how high. It was a funny scene, I think. When the tree took the man and put him in a blunt and rolled it and lit it. I found that to be funny, but in reality, that's not what happens. You take the thing off the tree and you use it for your edification. You use it for your substance and so forth and so on. And sidebar, being a brother who now takes herbs, it's sabim, osim, herbs work. All I'm saying. You understand? When it says in Ezekiel that it shall be for their medicine, that ain't no lie. I remember one day not getting sidetracked. I was so exhausted and so beat down. And this is back when my mother, may she rest in peace, was alive. And I was like in my early 20s. I don't know if I was going through a matter of what they call chronic fatigue syndrome, even at that age. And I was like, Mama, I can't even get up. Oh, and she looked at me like, oh, my baby, my son. I seen it in her eyes. My mother went as quick as she could and get blueberries. Gave me blueberries in less than 5 minutes. I was like, that's what it is. Let's go. So the Most High put things in the earth for things for edification purposes. Like I stated, I got an aunt that got the monster, her and her ish. She takes golden seal, red clover, and suma. Suma, S-U-M-A, is big in Brazil. It builds up your immune system. It strengthens it. Red clover cleanses your blood cells and makes it normal again. Red clover does that. Golden seal rejuvenates you. So she takes those 3 herbs, and the T cell count that she has is high. They don't know how, but it comes from the medicine that she takes. Her and her ish, or her and her man, if you will. So I'm saying that to say, brothers and sisters, the only thing that defeats us is either the normal process or we allow it to defeat us. All right? Before our time. Their understanding was not Eastern, so they altered the world due to bias of their culture. The mind of the individuals that translate gets embedded within the books. The Greeks had diverse idols. The Greeks did, have diverse idols and so forth and so on. All right? So now, getting back into what we see here with this word that's highlighted, while ye flew, the word now fall is its root, but the noon drops out because it's a pay noon verb. All right. We want to study upon that. You can get, when you get the time, Hebrews Easy, Volume 3. Next slide, please. Genesis chapter 1, verse 27. And God created man in his own image. In the image of God created he him. Male and female created he them. Adam means human. Of Adam, you got Zakar, meaning male, and the Queba, meaning female. So let's look. You got the highlighter, if we will, right? Zakar, meaning male. Nequeba, meaning female. Wayibra Elohim, and God, he created et ha'adam, and he created the human, Bazalmo, in his image. Bazalem Elohim, in the image of God, Bara Oto, created he him. Zakar unqueba, male and female, Bara, he created Otam, them. All right. Now, Otam, I want to type this in, all right? Means them. All right. And you have Oto. Don't tell me it's not a black people's language, right? Means what? Him. These are what you call your abject pronouns. We'll get into that, and you can in your own time in Hebrews Easy, Volume 4. All right? Wayibra Elohim, and God, he created et ha'adam, he created the human, Bazalmo, in his image. So now when we go here, and it says, brothers and sisters, let us make man in our image. Genesis 1:27 clarifies it by man being made in the image of the Most High. Zakar meaning male, Nequeba meaning female. All right? Nequab means to pierce. Nequeba, that which is pierced, and it's feminine, because males pierce females. Not to get too sidetracked from the Sabbath and what the subject lesson is on, but we just want to get into what this is talking about. All right. So when you read about people talking about the female organ as the word kwaba, that more so means belly. The word kwaba more so means belly. Belly. All right. The female organ, in correct scientific terms, they refer to as vagina. More so in Hebraic thought is the womb called the rechem. This is not to get sidetracked. We're talking about the language. Rechem means womb. Rechem also means mercy. All right. So this is where you get the word rachum, rachaman, and so forth and so on from. All right. It says the firstborn that breaks the matrix, and so forth and so on. So when you get into the matter of the womb, and when you get into the matter of nakwab, meaning pierce, when the kweba, the feminine of such that which is pierced by the zakar, the male, and so forth and so on, this is what it is. The Most High did not make anything confused. There is no, you're going to wake up, I want to be this day. I wake up, I want to be this day. That's not of the Most High. When you read now about being cut off from among your people, when you living in a society and you don't know what gender you want to be, that is serious. That's really cut off. You cut off from yourself. And the uniqueness about being a male and the uniqueness about being a female is now taken away with that kind of mentality. There are certain uniqueness matters being a male that a female in being unique as a male don't have, and vice versa. For instance, most sons are going to yearn and yield to their mothers. Most sons don't yearn and yield to their fathers like they would their mothers. You understand? So Isaac was comforted for who? What does it say in Genesis 24:67? Rebekah was a comfort to Isaac in which department? Anyone online? When it says Rebekah was comforted for who? Right. His mom. His Ima. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. His Ima, correct. Because, and it's not to get too personal, I can say that in my own relationship, having lost my mother now 19 years. You understand? It says what? He was comforted for his Iman. So it was, say, 17 or so years from the timing of my mother's passing to the lady that I'm with now. You know, April 15th being 2 years. My mother's death anniversary is April 18th. So 3 days in between the timing, making, say, 17 years of my mother leaving this earth, is when I'm able to understand Genesis 24:67 for real life. Not I just read it since I was 3, 4, 5, 6 years old in the camp, still having Ima at the time. You understand? And this is why, and I say in due respect, getting raw, if we will, as the children of Israel. I've made books, not being comforted for the Ima. Every book that was dedicated to a sister that wasn't able to be that comfort, that book got deleted. That book got deleted. Cover got changed. Got to change this. Got to change that. It wasn't until I made a book in honor of my mother, and then afterward, I made a book in honor of my relationship. Those books ain't get deleted. Them books is years old. Thank the Most High. See the difference? You see the difference when you can say that God put the relationship together? Then you cute, you look good. The Most High already made us attractive. That can't be the be all end all. That's not the image that is talking about in Genesis. Is when you can sit there and pray before the Most High together. Is when you can sit there and confess before the Most High together. It's when you can sit there and make promises in the name of the Most High together. Not that everything's going to be perfect, but that's why you make what? Compromises. That's when you make what? Consolations. That's when you make what? Changes. I call it the 3 C's. Compromise, changes, and I just said the other one would slip my mind, but I call it the 3 C's. You understand? That's very important to have. You know, and not to get sidetracked, I believe the best relationship in the Tanakh in the Torah, should I say in the first 5 books, is with Isaac. You don't read about Isaac and Rebekah having an argument. Not saying they never did. You read about his father and his Imah, Abraham and Sarah. You definitely read about his son and his daughter-in-law, Jacob and Rachel, having an argument. But you'll never read about them having one. That doesn't mean they didn't have one, I'm saying. That doesn't mean that you're not going to have one. You're going to have a discordance, brothers and sisters. It's a part of life. And as Imam put in, communication is very important. You don't want to, in a relationship, lose communication. Right? We lost our control and dominion over the animals. That's why you find bears going in South Jersey digging in your garbage. That's why you find raccoons in South Jamaica, Queens. Are we serious? Raccoons in the hood? Who would have thought of that? Because you don't have the control like you used to. Seagulls going all up through Jamaican Bay and into Queens like that. You understand? Frogs inside of malls, locusts attacking Las Vegas. We don't have the control over the animals like we used to. Did you know that? That locusts swarmed Las Vegas. Did you remember that? We don't have control over the animals and dominion because we lost our connection with the Most High. So that communication, you don't want to lose. Don't tell me that the Most High does not exist. I could never personally be atheist. I've seen so much. Go to school. This bracket job won't be forever. I remember hearing that when I was 20 years old, working at a job. Go to school. This job won't be forever. Sometime after that, school opening. And then the brother just wind up doing what he's doing in school. Who told me that that job won't be forever? And then less than 2 years after that, that job closed down. That was Yah. I can never, ever be atheist. Our people in slavery were not atheists, and they went through a whole lot more worse things than we do. Our generation, no disrespect intended, and I say our, I'm talking about like 50 and younger, are punks compared to what our ancestors had to go through. You ready to give up on your race because you had 1 or 2 or so bad relationships. Really? When grandma and grandpa went through things, they didn't give up on each other and throw in the towel quickly. They stayed and made it through. But we don't have, and I'll say generation like 50 and younger, we don't have that perseverance and that tolerance. We don't have that as our ancestors did. You understand? And yes, as the Imam wrote, an even sweeter example due to your walking in Abaya. And it's interesting, not to get too personal, that's how my lady starts her prayers, Abaya. When I start my prayers, I usually say Todaya or Eloheinu, our God. But just like you wrote Ima Abaya, did you know that that was one of the names of the Igbo people that was in the slave ship? Go to slaveship.com records. Abaya or Abia, that's one of the names of the Igbo people brought over to the Western Hemisphere. Their names in the slave ships ended with the name Yah. That's a fact. You understand? So that's something he pointed out. When you go to slaverecords.com, you can see that. The names of the people on the records before they were named Vernon and Dwayne and Brian and John, whether it be in Spanish, Portuguese, English, or French, their names that they had of their own selves ended in many cases with the name Yah in it. You understand? So, brothers and sisters, we have a connection to our God, and it's not just on the Sabbath. It's at any given time. The Sabbath is the time that he called for his connection with us, but we got our connection with the Most High all the time. Remember, we read in Exodus, The God of the Hebrews has met with us, but the Hebrews letting you know the God of the Hebrews, he was called concerning us. Nikra aleinu. He was called about us. He got a call concerning us. The English is going to tell you he met with us, but the Hebrew let you be known that our God was called. So when the Egyptians write inside, as pointed out in the camp on Pesach with Shomrei Habrit, when me and my lady was there in the temple of West Samara by Siwa, as you go toward Elephantine in southern Egypt, when he talk about the Yahweh of the Shasu, their enemy god by the 18th dynasty rulers, yeah, the God of the Hebrews was called upon. So this is what we want to talk about in this case. So what is the point in going over this here in Genesis 1:28? And God blessed them and said to them, be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth and subdue it. Mistranslation right here. Here's the mistranslation. Replenish is not there. And they get that mistranslation by mistranslating this word that you see here. Mil'u. Mil'u doesn't mean replenish. You understand? So the word replenish in Hebrew comes from the Hebrew word hechelif, not malay. That's the word that me and my lady went over. Like, you eat a lot. Ani malay, I'm full. And she would say, Ani malaya, I'm full. But this word here that is mistranslated in many Bibles, including the Tanakh itself, when it says replenish the earth, it doesn't mean that. It means fill the earth. All right? So it comes again, brothers and sisters, here's the mistranslation part. The word here, mil'u, the command form, pluralizing it, fill the earth. Man was told, along with his female, to make more. Be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth. We're supposed to make more. I will not personally understand, and it's not maybe for me as a brother with just one baby or not being a female to understand. He makes the woman joyful with children. Mama used to walk around with the belt on her neck. Where's the joy at? And I'm not trying to be disrespectful. My imam used to walk around with a belt on her neck. Like this for you when you act up. But when I was good, I remember imam saying, I was good. When I was bad, oh, let me go back to the closet after I took it off my neck. That kind of thing. So I'm saying that, you understand what I'm saying, to say like, he maketh the barren women to joy and a house full of children. I remember women crying because they couldn't have a baby or they had a certain miscarriage. They're not thinking on it like, whew, I ain't got somebody to steal and lie for me, and I ain't got this child to tie me down. I know of a couple. They Hispanic, but that's not the main point. The point is, I got my kids out the way now when I was 19, 20. So now that I'm 50, I could travel. I was like, what? Like, I got my kids, and him and his wife, they both in their 50s. I'm in my 20s at the time. And it was like, you see us? We're going to Guatemala. You know why? Because our children are in college. We already made ours, and we're going away. They moved out. Bye-bye. I'm traveling. And I'm saying that to say them being bilingual, knowing Spanish, they can travel in many countries pretty well. I'm saying all of that to say this. Like when me and my lady went to Costa Rica, I didn't know she knew Spanish like that. To that extent, I mean, my lady was flowing with the people in Spanish. I was like, I learned something. Teach me. You understand? Be teachable, More. And looking upon it in that particular case, breaking it down and getting into the nitty-gritty of it, be fruitful and multiply and fill. It doesn't mean replenish. All right. And it says the Hebrew word for replenish is hechelif. You don't see that here. All right. So that's the mistranslation we want to point out in that case. All right. Says 5 brothers and me, when we were bad equals we caught the fire. But I'm sure that when children are good, like having one myself, when they're good, they're good. When they're excellent, they're excellent. Sometimes you got to know, be excelling in that which is good. You understand? But let's talk about this for a second. Be they white or Japhetic or not is not the main subject of this. This woman's water broke inside of a lobby of a building. They called the ambulance, the paramedics or so, and that baby was not waiting to be brought on a gurney and into a hospital. he was coming out of his mother. And this ain't even of the children of Shem. This is a white man and woman having their baby inside of the lobby of a building. People in the lobby were like this. They took a blanket, put it over her, and everything like that. And they was like, push. The paramedics came and was like, he's coming out now. They, opened up and said, I see the head already. He put on his gloves. They didn't show all of that, but you know what's happening. And sure enough, the baby came out and everyone was clapping. The paramedics were deemed as heroes. Everybody's happy. The father's like, yay, I'm good. Now, what happiness comes with abortion? When they put you on a stretcher or whatever that plaque is, and then take a vacuum and then take something else and scrape it out and then take it to wherever. Do you understand where I'm coming from with that? Regardless of what nationality it is, you're not finding people clapping and ambulance people or paramedics like, we did our job. And he's like, I did my job. I got a boy now. You can't say that when you are supporting abortion. They don't even let the mother see the scraping from the vaginal walls inside the jar that they took and then put to the side. I know because I know sisters who had abortions. They told me what happens. Do you see the difference? Fill the earth, make more people. You get more happy with that. And from what I heard from women, correct me if I'm wrong, Ima, correct me if I'm wrong, Isha, correct me if I'm wrong, any Naqueba, any female. Once you have your first one, the others are not as difficult. I heard that before said. It's like the first one is like the hardest. The contractions like pow, 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 pow. And the coming out is not as happy or as pleasurable. But I heard that once the first and certainly the second, the rest are not as difficult. I'm not saying that's 100% around the board. I'm being told not technically, but then again, I can't have no baby. But I have heard women say who have 2 or more. So some are saying their first one is easy, others are not. What I'm conveying, what I'm attempting to portray is that love that you have after the baby is born, you don't get that with abortion. See, the Most High didn't condone abortion. The Most High condoned each people beget after their own kind. Shem, Ham, or Japheth. You understand? And to be fruitful and multiply, fill the earth. If you believe in Joshua writings, one of the reasons the Most High, according to the book of Joshua, that he brought the flood is because women didn't want to give birth because they didn't want stretch marks and lose their figure. I'm looking at me. I'm not going to let no baby destroy this kind of thing. You understand? But correct me if I'm wrong. And there's no disrespect or to get too personal. A month after my little one was born, her mom went back into the gym and started working out, and everything was like in taking cream for the stretch marks and so forth. So there are things in this earth to use to get back as quote where you were, if that's what you want to be. But when you think a child is holding you back, as opposed to I now got one to carry my legacy, then so be it. That's where the difference comes into play at, brothers and sisters. And being a dad, and I say this like Sirach says, because us men needed that counsel in Sirach. He who causes his daughter to be married has done a witty duty, meaning it's of your wits to do it, but give her to a man of understanding. Don't sit there and prevent yourself from being a grandfather because, well, nobody could be with mine, even though your wife is somebody else's daughter. Can't nobody be with mine? That who are yours that she can't be with someone? You going to sit there and have to be no disrespect and tenants take our bra strap off? Are you going to be the one to massage at night or in the morning? No, father, you can't do that. It's not proper for a 60-something-year-old man to massage his 30-year-old daughter's feet if she's already should have a man by then or could have one. There are certain things that's just improper. You understand? That's just not couth, if you will. So see it as gaining a son-in-law, not as you losing your daughter. All right? But we want to get back into this. We want to have it be brought out, understood that this word replenish in Genesis 1:28 is, yes, a mistranslation. All right? 10:6 of Exodus. And our houses shall be filled, and the houses of all thy servants, and the houses of all the Egyptians, as neither thy fathers nor thy fathers' fathers have seen, since the day that they were upon the earth unto this day. And he turned and went out from Pharaoh. What's the point in this quotation here? Umal Mem Lamed Aleph, right? We see the Mem, the Lamed, and the Aleph. We see the Mem, the Lamed, and the Aleph, fill, not replenish. All right? Male, to fill. Milah, to be filled. Still with the same root letters, Lamed, pardon me, Mem, Lamed, Aleph. Again, the Hebrew word for replenish is the word hekelif, which you don't see in Genesis. All right? So if I can be heard, everybody, please type in, and if you're in good spirits now, type in the number 4. Thank you. Let's continue with this. Exodus 20 and Ecclesiastes chapter 3, verse 3. Now, the Standard Bible has Ecclesiastes as a time to kill, and as Exodus 20, verse 13 as a time, has a statement that says thou shalt not kill. See what the problem is? One is saying thou shalt not kill, Standard Bibles. The Standard Bibles also say a time to kill. So how can it be thou shalt not kill if there's a time to kill? How can you have a time to do something that you're told not to do? Huh? You know how they go, That's trying to be funny or facetious at the moment. I don't know. Maybe the channel's different than the way I'm trying to portray it now. Okay, but let's get back into the linguistics. Let us, getting back to serious mode, highlight Lo tirzak. The word ratzak means to murder. So it's not correctly thou shalt not kill. It's more correctly thou shalt not what? Murder or assassinate. Then it reads a time to kill. The root word there is harag. Eit laharog. This lamed, which we're going to circle with the pen, shows it to be inside of what is referred to as the infinitive. All right. Eit laharog, a time to kill, is correctly translated. But when we read thou shalt not kill, it should read thou shalt not murder. So razak means to murder. Harag means to kill. There's a distinction between the two. And thank you, my love, Sarai. Thank you, Elder. And thank you, Elder or brother. Don't know your age. I'm 43. Thomas Miller for typing in the number 4. All right. So we want to point that out. Deuteronomy chapter 6, verse 4 and verse 8. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. We know this from camps and other places, right? Laser pointer. Shema Yisrael, Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh Eloheinu, Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh Echad. And thou shalt bind them for a sign upon thy hand, and they shall be for frontlets between thine eyes. Uksharatem la'ot al yadeka, wahayu l'totafot bein eneka. What do we want to point out, brothers and sisters? There is nothing wrong with wearing an emblem attached to your mitri, your turban, or your kippah, your head covering, right? Or your kobah, as it's called, with an ornament by your nose in between your eyes. There's nothing wrong with that. But this is not what the law is saying. The law in Deuteronomy 6, verse 8 says what? And thou shalt bind them for a sign upon thy hand, and they shall be for frontlets between thine eyes. What is supposed to be for frontlets between your eyes and a sign on your hand? Ha-Torah, the law. Lo tokal badam, you should not eat with the blood. Getting rid of that stealing spirit from when you was a child. Lo tignob, thou shalt not steal. Im tignob, tasim kazir bekiska. If you steal, you're putting swine in your pocket. Whatever it takes for you to not do that. You understand? That is it becoming as a sign upon your hand. And for frontlets between your eyes. Nisuyahi, she's married. Stop coveting. Hadabar hahu leda eka. That thing is for thy neighbor. Lo takmo, thou shalt not cover. Elohim has your gift and your portion. You don't need to be coveting somebody else's stuff. You understand? See how the Torah builds character? See how the Torah builds responsibility? Get your own kippah. Get your own isha. Get your own dirah. Get your own apartment, your own hat, your own lady. You ain't got to sit there and covet somebody else's. That's not character in Israel. Because when you start to become covetous, it leads you to wicked thoughts. I'm going to take that. How are you going to do it? How are you going to plot? How are you going to scheme? And that is what you call in Proverbs a heart that deviseth wicked imaginations. And that's what we're not supposed to have, brothers and sisters. You understand? So now, what are we pointing this out here in the Hebrew? Right? And they shall be, highlight that, and they shall be for frontlets. Now the Hebrew has it here. Wahayu latotafot. Now we're going to show brothers and sisters with the pen. Totafot with the colon over the pay. It's the plural feminine of the feminine word totafa. The word totafa means frontlet. Again, I am not saying that it is against the law to wear an ornament that sits between your eyes. I'm saying what Deuteronomy is saying is that when you keep in these laws, it will be a sign on your hand, that it will be a frontlet between your eyes. So let's show this what we're talking about. Exodus 13, verse 16. And it shall be for a sign upon thy hand, and for frontlets between your eyes. For by strength of hand, the Lord brought us forth out of Egypt. Now, what do we want to point out? Let's get our Hebrew on and let's get into this, right? Wahayu laot al yadka, on your hand. Ultotafot bain eneka. Right? What are we pointing out? We want to circle. Please follow along. And I say follow along, not trying to be condescending. Right? Let's look. You got the lamed here. Let's get into the Hebrew. And you got the word haya over here. Haya means what? Anybody? Haya in Hebrew means what? Yes, it's a verb, meaning what? Haya, H-A-Y-A. It's a Hebrew verb meaning what? Anybody? All right. Tahir. No, the word, right, the word tahir means to be clean. But what does the word haya by itself mean? Does anybody know? The root word haya in Hebrew means to be or to exist. All right, so now let's look. It says, and it shall be, and over here in Deuteronomy, it says, and they shall be. They shall be for frontlets. And right here we see, and it shall be for frontlets. Anytime in Hebrew, you have the word haya, hey, yod, hey. And the next word, get your pens and pads, brothers and sisters and elders. And the next word has a lamed next to it. What that signifies is that haya, to be, automatically means to become. All right. Any questions, comments? Perhaps that's where some people get high from. I always thought that high was from the, if anything, the Hebrew word kai, meaning life. But this is what I will want to point out and type in this particular case, if we will. Real timing. Anytime a word has a lamed next to, let me say it differently, sorry. Anytime the word haya, meaning to be, as the word, as the letter, sorry, family, Ahmed as a prefix to the next word. The translation is to become. All right. So I want to put that in here for edification purposes. We're going to erase this because we want to get into the Hebraic way, right? If we will. And looking upon it like that, right? I'm sorry. Is that E-H-Y-E-H? No, that's not E-H-Y-E-H. The word Haya means to be or to exist. Cain. So thank you for the question in that. So we look upon this highlighter, right? The totafot. Totafot by itself means frontlets from the word totafa. All right. Now, when you have this lamed, which we're going to show, brothers and sisters, erasing all of that, and highlighter, right? That lamed here that you're seeing being highlighted. Matter of fact, let us do this for reference purposes. We're going to highlight it, but underneath it in the blue. What you see, that right there. What you see, that right there. Now we see it right here in the blue. In that case, what do we point out in this matter here? Haya is conjugated to become Hayu. Haya means he was. Hayu means they were. Well, Hayu, prefix by the letter wow, sovereign as the wow consecutive. Hayu, they were, becomes they will be. But because this root word, Hayu from Haya, has a lamed as its second matter, as a prefix to the second word to it, it means they will become. All right. Is that where some get the phrase Ehye or Ahaya from? I am and will be. Yes. The name of the Most High, Yod He Wah-He, in root comes from the root word Haya, which means to be or to exist. Yod He Wah-He, said by some as Yahuwah, said by some as Yahweh, said by some as Yahweh, said by some as Yahuwah, shows you that Ezekiel's prophecy of he telling us his name and pronunciation has not come to pass yet. So Israel say it different ways. Ezekiel chapter 39, verse 7 shows that in that particular case, all of it still means he who was, he will be. And in that particular manner and so forth. So when we see Wahayu and they shall be, because of this lamed that you see here, and because of this lamed that you see here, that means instead of be, it means become. So now, what are we pointing out? That in the culture of Israel, things become certain things by certain things you do. You keep on lying, you a liar. You keep on having that law as a frontlet between your eyes, you're going to be seeing the law. It will become your third eye. You keep on doing certain things with your hands, it's like, nah, B, I ain't even gonna sit there and touch this stolen car. I'm not even gonna sit there and touch that's another man's wife. That's not mine. Like Tobit told his lady in the book of the Apocrypha, says, don't eat things that which is stolen. It's not good. We work for hours. Like Abraham said, I'm not going to let you take a latch off of my shoe because y'all Canaanites do things and hold it over somebody's head. So no, I worked for mine. I'm going to pay for this cave of my pella. Oh, you're a great man. I was great before I met you. No disrespect intended. And let me show this great by doing a great deed. Not, you don't let people gas you up or what they call gaslighting. Correct me if I'm wrong on the term. You're so great and hyping you up to where you just get everything free. That's not greatness. That's them maybe, perhaps, wanting to use that later against you. And if they're not trying to use it against you, they don't mind you doing your part into it because each one help one, be you great or small, whether it's great or big help or little or small help. But when somebody don't want you to help at all, and I remember being told as a kid, yo, sure to get out the way. You basically sawing me down when they had work detail. I mentioned this before on the channel. That made me feel like, wow, what purpose do I serve? You know, you want to be a part of something. You know, you just don't want to sit there. If you had a job and the manager or the supervisor gives everybody an assignment but you, if you have a heart of reasoning, that's going to make you feel away. Not, they favor me. That's because what's going to wind up happening is when things get real at that job and they start changing in how they move, they who are about doing the work is going to continue as they were. But they who are not about doing the work is like, oh, when things become crazy. So always put your best foot forward, Israel. All right? That's how you get a Joseph. For those who do know. All right, now, what do we want to point out is I'm saying that it's nothing wrong with wearing an emblem that hangs from your mitre or your turban or your head covering and saying that that is your frontlet. But what the law is talking about is by you walking in it, talking about it when you rise up and when you lie down. Like when me and my lady was in the South not too long ago, talking about it with relatives and so forth and so on. Talking about it with children, nieces, nephews, siblings, and so forth and so on. There's nothing wrong with that in that particular case. All right, let's go on if we will. Let's confirm about this hayu, with the matter, with the lamed next to the second word of such. And that shall become an astonishment, a proverb, and a byword among all the peoples, whether the Lord shall lead thee away. Wahayita, l'shama, l'mashal, walishnina. So what do we see common in this? And we want to highlight with a different color what we see common. This lamed, if there's any questions, please feel free. This lamed and this lamed. These matters of lamed, after it is followed by this word hayita, hayita comes from the root word haya. Haya means you were or you was, or you were in proper English. We want to circle with a pen. As a matter of fact, what we want to do, all right, to show this in as much real time as possible, right, is what we want to show this as is enlarging it. Not that large, maybe. All right. And then go back from current slide. And let's look at this in this particular case, right? With the highlighter. Wahayita. And thou shalt become. You see how this word says become, brothers and sisters? The reason for that is because the haya, he was, hayita, you were, wahayita, and you shall be. But because we have our friend here, the lamed, which we're going to show in the color underlined here, and the black here, and the black here, and then the black here, lamed, 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 following the word haya means become. That is the point in this. So when we read in Deuteronomy 28:37, and thou shalt become an astonishment, it doesn't say and you shall be. It says you shall become. So you're from one level to the next. That's what that means in that case. Song of Solomon 1 verse 5 and Zechariah chapter 6 verse 2. I am black but comely, O ye daughters of Jerusalem, as the tents of Kedar, as the curtains of Shalomo, or curtains of Solomon. Hebrew, Shakora ani wa nahwa benot Yarushalayim, ka'ahale Kedar, Kiriot Shalomo, curtains. Kriya is that. What does it say? I am black but comely. Really? Is that what it says? Because, correct me if I'm wrong, In Hebrew, this says Shakora, black, Ani, Wanahwa. The word for but is the word abal. So these translators played games, brothers and sisters, if we will. It does not say I am black but comely. It says I am black and gorgeous. Nahwa. It comes from the Hebrew root word nahwe. Honorable. Prestigious. That's what nahwe means. The word yapa or yafe means pretty or beautiful. This word nahwa means more so honorable, which some people try to just translate as pretty or gorgeous. But this is talking about character. I am black and gorgeous. I am black and excellent. Not black but comely. That word but is not there because the word but in Hebrew is the word abal. Aleph, bet, lamed. I brought this up to Jewish women in the past who spoke Hebrew. Like, oh, this is not to be sexist or racist or quote unquote anti-Semitic. Your poor translation is anti-Hebraic. I am black but comely, O ye daughters of Jerusalem. What is being pointed? Not that they had colorism back then, brothers and sisters, if you will, but the person is describing one's own self. The next verse, for those who did read it, gets into the matter of saying what? I have kept my family's flock, but mine I have not kept. So, in other words, brothers and sisters, I am black and comely, O ye daughters of Jerusalem. Doesn't mean that the daughters of Jerusalem were white. You understand? As the tents of Kedar, as the curtains of Solomon. In Zechariah chapter 6, in the first chariot were red horses, and in the second chariot, black horses. The word, brothers and sisters, we wanted to get into, Shakorim. We was in the south and saw Susim. Susim means horses. You understand? So Shakora from Shakar means black or dark in this case. It doesn't mean black like the Webster Dictionary thing, meaning dismal, depressing, and gloomy. It doesn't mean that. When the brothers from One West use Jeremiah 14 verse 2, Judah is black unto the ground, that's talking about that kind of quadar black in that case. So you got Shakar, meaning dark or black, like my head covering for those who saw it earlier. And then you have the word quadar, which means black or depressing or gloomy. Those are two different words in the language. So Judah being black to the ground doesn't mean a good thing. But we know that the people were of color. We want to point that out for reference purposes. You understand? Any questions or comments, please feel free to chime in or chat in. We're about to close out momentarily. 1 Samuel chapter 16, verse 12. And he sent and brought him in. Now he was ready and withal of beautiful eyes and goodly to look upon. And the Lord said, arise, anoint him, for this is he. Why Yishlak? And we're going to follow this with the laser pointer. All right, family? Why Yishlak? Why be Ehu? Wehu Admoni? Im Yefe Enayim with Tobroi. Why Omer Yode Wahe Kum Mishachehu Kizehu. Kum, arise. Mishachehu. Anoint him from the word mashak, to anoint. Ki, because ze, this is who he. This is who he is. This is talking about David. And this description of him is in part, and we want to point this out for reference purposes, right? Admoni, translated by many as ruddy. But that's not accurate. That's why we call it the mistranslations. Do you know what admoni means, brothers and sisters? It's talking about, believe it or not, his hair. David, for the lack of a better term, is what you will call a black man with reddish hair. They're rare, like Malcolm X or so, but they do exist. So he would have stood out physically than many of the other Israelites. Some people say that ruddy means young and tender. It does in that case, but the word admoni does not mean ruddy. And what some people who don't think, not trying to be disrespectful, who don't think that somebody studies the language, they'll try to say that you are ruddy and white. You cannot be both ruddy and white with the translation that you got ruddy as red. You can't be both of that, because either you're going to be white and fair skin tone or red in skin tone, because you refuse to acknowledge those who get into the word zak, meaning white or pure, does not mean white as in Laban, like you a white man. Doesn't mean that. So when you read the word zak in the book of Lamentations, or in the book of Job, or in the book of Isaiah, it's talking about zakah, zadeket, meaning the matter of purity, not Laban, meaning white, or that is to say what? Pale. That's not what that means. The translators try to play games with such. That's why we call it the mistranslations in the English Bible. All right. So now he was ruddy. Hebrew saying, well, who admoni? Again, the admoni, the description of such is what? Speaking about his se'ar, or his hair in said case. When you look at the typical, quote, black family, and you see one that is reddish haired, he or she stands out. Doesn't mean that you're mixed. It means you just unique in that manner. So that's what we want to point out in that case. All right. Next part. As we begin to close out, we have only a couple more to do. Thank you for staying with us, family. Genesis 9:27, Jeremiah chapter 20, sorry. God enlarged Japheth, and he shall dwell in the tents of Shem, and let Canaan be their servant. Now we're going to look at this with the laser pointer and show them his translation. Yaft Elohim leyefet. Remember that lamed as before. Vayishkon ba'ahale Shem. We Canaan ebed lamo. Now let's look at this, brothers and sisters, and show with the highlighter, with a different color, of course. Right? Yaft Elohim leyefet. You see the yod, the fe, and the tau all there in that particular case. What does that word mean? Yaft, Yefet, Japhet. Japhet in Hebrew, it said is Yafet. They translate this here as the word, sadly, as enlarged. So that's why some people say Japhet means enlarged. Some people look at the word Yafa or Yapa, meaning pretty, to say that Yafet from Yapa means pretty, but it doesn't mean that. The word Yafet comes more so from the root word pata, which means to entice. So instead of the poor translation of God enlarged Japhet, and he shall dwell in the tents of Shem, we may want to read God enticed Japhet, and he shall dwell in the tents of Shem. So when you find the Khazar King Joseph, according to Arthur Kosel's book, The 13th Tribe, talking about that they come from what? The line of Togarmah through Ashkenaz. Ashkenaz, want to dwell in the tents of Shem, entice to dwell there. That's not your land. That's what it's talking about. the Ashkenazi from Japhet being enticed to dwell in the tent of Shem, after the true people of Shem, the house of Israel, in part, was removed from their land. That's what it's talking about. You understand? It's not talking in large. The word big or large is the word from the root word gadal. So to make large will be the word hagdel. Hagdel is you take gadal and add a hey, the feminine principle, mind you, in front of it to cause something to be, because in Hebraic thought, feminine principle equals causation. That's why we can't be misogynistic, brothers. Our women cause things to happen. Don't think so? Be single. See where you be in a month. Now, getting back into this matter right here. For I have heard the whispering of many, terror on every side. Denounce, and we will denounce him, even of all my familiar friends, them that watch for my halting. Peradventure he will be enticed, and we will prevail against him, and we shall take over revenge on him. Now, this word enticed that you see here in Jeremiah chapter 20, we see here in the Hebrew as what? Yefute. This is, brothers and sisters, the Hebrew pu'al stem. Yefute. He will be enticed. From the root word again, patah. Patah meaning to entice, or in some cases deceive. Yes, as Ima asks, like Hagadol the great, like Kohen Hagadol means the great priest or the high priest, correct? But when they try to say that the word in Genesis 9:27 means enlarge, it doesn't mean enlarge. It means, brothers and sisters, the word patah meaning what? To entice. Exodus chapter 22, verse 16. And if a man entice a virgin that is not betrothed and lie with her, he shall surely pay a dowry for her to be his wife. If her father utterly refuse to give her unto him, he shall pay money according to the dowry of virgins. What are we reading, Israel? If a man entice a virgin that is not betrothed, ki yepate isha betula. We know the word betula means virgin. Alma means young woman. Alma is not virgin. Betula is not young woman. So we want to point that out. So a virgin did not give birth to Emmanuel in Isaiah 7. A young woman did. All right. So looking upon this now, getting back to the Hebrew here in Exodus 22. If a man entice a virgin that is not betrothed, you know how difficult and what kind of enticing you got to do as a man when you want to sleep with a virgin. She may want to ask, are you going to be with me forever? If I give my virginity to you, what's going to happen? Whereas us as males know, if she is not a virgin, we're not going to say other terms. If she's the complete opposite of such, mentally or otherwise, it's quote unquote, you don't have to do much enticing. Sometimes they'll come to you with such. You understand? I'm saying, because a virgin is not just going to walk up and say, hey, take my virginity. I've known you for a month. That's not going to happen. He has to entice that in that particular case. So if a man entices a virgin that is not betrothed, entice we see here, ki yepate ish. Let's look at this and go over this as we close out, right? Yepate, that yod signifies he, the future tense matter. Pate, entice. We see right here, brothers and sisters, the pay, the tau, the hay. And here, brothers and sisters, the hay drops off, but yaft, the pay, the tau, and the hay. That word does never mean enlarge. All right. The word enlarge is hagdel. All right. Hagadol, that ha, and the word hagadol means the great or the large. But the word, one word by itself, hagdel, means to enlarge, the verb itself. You don't see that in Genesis chapter 9. So it's not God enlarged Japhet, it's God enticed Japhet. So, brothers and sisters, I wanted to show some key points in this particular manner, if we will. Sorry about that. Family, as you see, we're going to conclude with this particular one right here. Deuteronomy 22:5. A woman shall not wear that which pertaineth unto a man, neither shall a man put on a woman's garment. For whoso doeth these things is an abomination to the Lord thy God. Lo yihye, from the root word haya, kili geber al isha, the garment of a male al isha. Kilo yilbash geber simlat isha. Neither shall a man, a mister, wear the vestment or the garment of a woman. Kita abat yodhe wahe, because an abomination to the Most High, your God, called Ose Ele. Now, what do we want to point out? Now, while you got not trying to talk business, sisters who can take pants and make a skirt out of it. Why are there still sisters talking about getting pants from Macy's, JCPenney, in Israel? Do you sidebar hate your sister in that much that you will not sit there and support your sister's business, or Daughters of Zion, DOZ, as we are all called, for those who are the females, that is? Do you hate on other sisters the way you want to give the Daughters of Japhet your hard-earned money and not go to any of the lines, websites that sisters do and sit there making clothes? Is it really that bad between us? Yeah, it is, sad to say. You rather sit there, know that you got the sister who does the Hebrew class with the children. You got more Yiftach class. You got more of your Yehosadek class. You got the brothers in Virginia that go online and teach Hebrew. But instead of utilizing what is near to you, you rather go all the way to West Bubble just to sit there and say a nigga didn't teach me. Ain't that sad? Sorry to the language. You rather sit there and say, I can sit there and wear what I want to wear. So you're not going to support your sister who can use that for Similac if she got to use it for rent if she got to use it for whatever if she got to. See, not being each other's most valuable resources, how that can be a problem. You should not hate your brother, your people in your heart. For you to deliberately not use your brother and sister for something when nobody else looks forward to using us for anything as a priority. You know, we're the last hired. Sadly, in many cases, the first fired. So we're the last to be chosen by these nations. Old people, none desired, said the book of Zephaniah. So why do we sit there and choose ourselves last? Just to show, quote, Massa, that you ain't a racist? Look, I'm not a racist. I love you more than I love my own. Because, see, Jewish, Italian, and Irish, they don't mind hiring theirs. Jewish, Italian, and Jewish don't mind hiring theirs. And they could care less if you call them, you're a racist. The Chinese didn't enslave the black man. So by default, you can't sit there and say reparations to him. He's going to hire his own. We're the only people who's okay saying, I ain't got to sit there and deal with mine. Nobody else looks for that. No one else looks for that. We're the only people who think we are achieving something by having others with us. Nobody cares about being called a racist but us. We don't, well, I'm not that, so I'm going to sit there and be anti my own. I'm not going to limit myself only to people who look like me and my parents. No, what you did is you forgot the part that you played in a situation that you're in life now, and you want to run to others because you don't want to face your own. And don't think other nations don't know that. They know what goes on. They make movies about it. You don't think they saw Claudine, the movie? You don't think they saw A Family That Prays? They sponsor Lionsgate. They sponsor Warner Brothers. They run Paramount. So, brothers and sisters, getting into this here, a woman shall not wear that which pertains unto a man. Now, some people say this man in the Hebrew here is the word geber, which means soldier. So a woman is not supposed to wear that which pertains to a soldier. And that be the case, when Yael took the tent pin and hit Sisera with it, she was maybe not wearing, but using the kelim or the instruments of a soldier. That is like saying, if you translate that as a woman should not wear that which pertains to a soldier or a warrior, that can lead to the thought that a woman shouldn't be a soldier or a warrior. So she ain't supposed to know how to fight, huh? She ain't supposed to know how to defend herself. If a man has a sword, would not the woman too have their sword? So that word geber is not meaning soldier in that case. It is talking about a Mr. or a sir. a male. That's what it's talking about. All right. And then it goes on to say, Lo walo yilbash geberes simlat imsha. Neither shall a Mr. or a Sir, he shall not wear the vestment or the garment of a woman. Now, if you translate geberes there only as soldier, you would read it as a woman should not wear that which pertains to a man that's a soldier, neither shall a man that's a soldier wear a woman's garment. So what about a man that's not a soldier? Can he wear a woman's garment? With that poor translation? No, brothers and sisters. This is why we want to point things out for edification purpose. Daughters of Zion, stop hating on your sisters and support them. Giving honor and praise unto the Most High, Creator, Maker of heaven and earth. This concludes this presentation. Thank you all for joining. Thank you all, brothers and sisters, for being with us this morning into the afternoon. We ask you all to stay on and choose to. We can have a presentation later on. Press that bell, comment, like, share, and enjoy your Sabbath, enjoy your week, enjoy your weekend. Shalom, Most High bless. Thank you for participating, everyone. Thank you.